Welcome to the Elite Life with Trisha and Kylie. This is where we'll teach you how to develop grit, give yourself grace, and succeed in real estate. So let's dive in.
Welcome, wonderful listeners, to another episode of Elite Life. I'm Kylie, and with me is Trish. And today we are tackling a crucial topic that affects all people at some point in life, which is cutting toxicity and negativity in our lives out of our lives.
Absolutely, Kylie. I mean, this is, like you said, this is a topic that pretty much every human is going to grapple with at some point in our life. And I was on a coaching call. I always say, like, I get a lot of these podcast ideas from my coaching calls.
Well, I mean, if one person is struggling or having questions with someone, then probably more people are too.
Yeah.
So it's good you bring this to the table.
Yeah.
Sure.
And this will actually be our first two-part podcast series, because today we're going to go through cutting toxic people like friends and family, and next week, tune in again, we're going to go through cutting toxic employees, because the coaching call that I had, she was actually needed to do both, and she wanted to talk to somebody who had done both, and I have personally had to do both, and it's hard. It's so hard, and especially in what we're going to talk about today with friends and family, but we need to do it to protect our own mental and emotional health. And I thought, like, man, these things took me a lifetime to see and learn. So I wanted to share with our listeners so we can make that learning curve a little easier for them, you know?
Absolutely. And it is a super hard thing to do, you know, letting people go in your life, but that's really it's magnified when it's a lifelong friend, it's a family member, or even a spouse. So let's just dive right in. Let's provide everybody with some kind of a framework. We're going to give you guys some resources for success. So Trish, what do you think defines a toxic relationship? Like, what are the signs? Like, maybe someone's listening and they maybe have a feeling that this relationship isn't good. What is it when they are doing their audit and their assessment? What are they looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. And before we dig into that specifically, I want to speak to the word toxic because
she's been singing the Britney Spears song.
I have been
since we
singing
wrote
the
this
Britney
outline.
Spears song, but nobody ever used to use the word toxic. And I think some people are still actually adverse to it. So if you are one of those people that are adverse to it, or you take it like really, really like to an extreme, these are red flags. And when there are a lot of red flags with a person, that is a sign, whether it's people are telling you the red flags or you know it and you feel it inside. Like, a lot of times, if you're like me, you want to ignore those red flags because you love this person or they've been in your life, or you feel like, dude, sometimes it might be like me and one of my friends were talking about, we were talking about step parents, and it's like when one parent removes themselves from your life for whatever odd reason, and another person comes and fills that role, even if they're not maybe a good person or act in a good way or treat you well, you may have this like kind of like, you feel you owe them gratitude, or like this, they saved you, or savior mentality, or things like that. Like, you may find yourself, like we were talking about how as grownups looking back, we grapple with like, why is this person's approval or words of affirmation so important to us when this person wasn't even necessarily a good person? So I say that to say, like, this is for anyone who may think, hey, there's this person in my life and they don't necessarily make me feel great 100% of the time. You may need to address that. And you may need to have addressed it a long time ago, but there's no time like the present to start saying, I have these red flags. I need to do something about it. So Here are the red flags that we're talking about. Here's some red flags for you. Constant negativity. In a toxic relationship, or a red flag you should see, is when negativity prevails. There's just this continuous cycle of criticism, blame, pessimism, just making it challenging to have a positive atmosphere when you are around this person. So for example, like one of the coaching calls I was on, they were saying how every time they go to this family member's home, it is just, they leave feeling awful. Like they'll come in like pumped about their day, feeling great, and they don't even feel like they can share their wins with this family member because they're just like, oh, you think you're better than us? Oh, must be nice. Oh, look at you. Oh, it's all about you. You're this, you're that, you're this. And they make them feel bad about their wins, or they bring them down by maybe being negative about the other person. So this happens a lot with like moms and dads, or moms and stepdads, or dads and stepmoms. Like they'll be talking about their significant other to you, and you're like, whoa, bro, like if you don't like your relationship, number one, that's your business. Number two, it's not making our relationship any better for you to talk about my mom or my dad, or my aunt or my uncle or whoever it is in this duo. So me and Dave talk about this a lot, how you find yourself in these conversations where somebody's talking negatively about their spouse, and they do it all the time.
Yes.
They do it all the time. And I have started like calling people out on it. I'm like, listen, I don't want to hear about this anymore, or I will be dead silent. I was in the car. I was driving a family member to an event. This happened just a couple of weeks ago. I was driving a family member to an event, and they were like, blah, 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 negative about their significant other. And I sat there dead silent. I did not say one word. Not one word, not one word. Now, I have worked a long day. At this point, it's 8 p.m. at night. I've been going since 4 o'clock in the morning. I've kept myself positive all day long and done everything I can do and poured. And now I am taking you to this event. And all you are doing is talking negatively about your significant other. I said nothing. And all of a sudden they stopped and they're like, oh, is this too much for you? And I'm like, I do not participate in conversations like this. If you want to participate in a conversation that is all negative, or, you know, talking badly or gossiping or whatever this is, like, this is not I'm just not going to participate.
And
I just
want to throw something in. There is a big difference between that conversation that Trisha was talking about and maybe a conversation that you have where someone's coming to you for advice. So there's been plenty of times where, you know, I've come to you, or I go to my mom and I say, hey, I'm having trouble dealing with how to handle this conversation with Ryan, or how to handle this conversation with someone else in my life, how to handle this conversation with my child. And it does involve a lot of maybe unloading of negative feelings. And then you always come in and say, well, listen, now that you've unloaded that, let's unpack it a little bit further. And we back it up. And what do we always learn? Kylie's the common denominator here. So we're not discouraging. We're not trying to discourage people from having tough conversations and talking about their negative feelings. But when it is, I have a family member too, who we don't hang out with. And I've got a couple of them where we live very, very close and we should be hanging out. But every time we get together, you know, it is always just negative about this person or that person, or, you know, someone's always got to, I have one who we cannot get together without that person drinking and, you know, carrying on in that manner. And unfortunately, you have to say, you know what, I'm not going to participate in this today. And that's okay. And we'll get into it a little bit later on some tips and tricks that you can implement to maybe get yourself through that. But I just wanted to throw that in because we're always encouraging people to deal with their feelings, to make sure that you're reaching out for help, for advice, because when you're sitting in these feelings, you can't see the forest for the trees. And sometimes it's really helpful to have someone, a therapist, somebody to help you really unpack that and figure out what am I actually upset about and what's going on.
And I love that you said that. And thank you for making that clarification, because I am always a safe space to share.
Always.
Don't come to me looking for a pity party when I know you've had the same conversation with 7 other people today and you just want me to say, oh, poor you, especially if you're doing the same thing that you're complaining your spouse does.
Yeah.
That was this scenario. You are complaining that your spouse does this thing, that you do the exact same thing, but you want a pity party because they do it. Not here for that.
All right. So now that we've unpacked that, the next one that we're going to hit, the next red flag on the list is lack of trust. So, trust is the foundation of healthy relationships, and in a toxic relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship, a friendship, or a family relationship, we through life, obviously, there are things that happen where trust does get shaken. Trust can get eroded. Frequent betrayals, lies, doubts, or, just one thing I find in relationships like marriages and things like that, parenting is, if someone's constantly saying, yeah, I've got you, I'll do this. And it doesn't have to be like a, he cheated on me trust sort of thing. It could just be, I can't trust this person to be responsible with the kids. I can't trust this person to, pick up the slack when I'm working those 14-hour days. And that is one thing that I really value about, what I have with you and what I have with, my husband and with my mom is there's a lot of trust there. And so when you don't have trust, that can obviously lead to a lot of problems. Where were you at? Who are you talking to? We've all been there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I also always use my own personal life to frame these podcasts. And there's a couple like people that were in my life for a long time. I'm talking for like 20, 30 years that I finally, and it was so hard, but I finally just had to like literally stop responding to them and stop answering their calls because I couldn't believe them anymore. They had lied so much and would tell me one story, and then I find out they actually did this or said this or were like literally like coming to me about a family member and then going with that family member and then talking badly about me, which I make it a practice to never do. Like, I would never go to somebody else and be like, Kylie's a hot mess. Her and Ryan are crazy. Their house is disgusting. Like, I would never in a million, trillion, cajillion years do that.
No, y'all, she say that shit to my face.
I make it a policy that words will not come out of my mouth about another human that I wouldn't say directly to that human. That is my policy. Period.
So what we're saying is one way to get around this is communication.
Yeah.
And so if there is a lack of trust, solve the problem by communicating with the person with the trust.
Yeah. Don't be a jerk and lie all the time. There are some people that lie so much that I believe that they believe their own stories. And then they can't even differentiate like real life and what happened from the story that they've made up about this situation. It's crazy.
And this kind of leads us into the next one, which is manipulation. So let's say we do have a lack of trust in a relationship and you want to correct that. So now we're going to try and have a conversation. And one thing that I've learned from my toxic relationships is you will know very quickly if the communication is going to be a two-way street based on how this person responds. So manipulation, toxic individuals, they use manipulation tactics to really control or influence the other person in the scenario. And this can include, emotional manipulation, mental, so in my experience, it was, hey person, I want to address this issue that we're having. And an hour later, I come into the conversation knowing that I'm not the problem, but I want to address the problem. And an hour later, I'm feeling at fault and I'm the one saying sorry because we just spent an hour talking and now I'm just like, wait a minute, how is this my fault? So it's going to involve blame, pointing fingers, and it's mostly deflection is what I have personally found is, hey, I want to address this problem that I have with you, but instead of communicating about that, you want to just sit here and come right back at me, kind of like you were talking about, like, will you do this? Will you do this? Will you do this? That's not going to go anywhere at all whatsoever.
Oh yeah, the guilt tripping. I've had some people in my lives. The guilt tripping is absolutely crazy. Well, if you loved me, you'd do this. Well, if you loved me, you wouldn't do this. Oh, are you joking me right now? If I loved you, I wouldn't go to lunch with my colleague. Like, that's what our love is based on. That's super weird.
Well, too, I mean, there's the other side of it is, no one's going to love you like I love you. No one's going to put up with your crap the way that I put up with. No one's going to want you. Like, that's what I always heard, which, leads us into the next one, which is isolation. So when you're in a relationship and you're isolated, in friendship, I've noticed that there are some people who can only have one friend at a time. I'm not personally one of those people, but I've noticed I've been able to pick those people out. So I know in my circle who can only handle me at a time and which one of my friends I can invite to a hillbilly yard party, right? But when you're in that isolated situation, that person is trying to isolate you from other people. And that's when it's easier to manipulate you in the ways that we were just kind of talking about.
Oh, yeah. Isolation is a big one. I had a family member and he got married to a woman and we used to see him all the time when I was a kid. I'm talking like he was at our basketball games. He took us out to eat, like everything. He married this woman and I literally never see him anymore at all whatsoever. Like, I see him so little, like there's times I forget that he even exists. Now, he was a main crux of my life as a child. And today, like, if somebody said, oh, he walked into the office, I'd be like, who? Because I literally, the last time I seen him was when Nikki graduated. Now, Nikki is now grown, married, and moved to another state. And I believe her graduation, it had to have been over 10 years ago now that she graduated. So I haven't even seen him in over 10 years. And this is a close family member, like somebody I should see on the regular. And there's no reason why. He married this person and he allowed them to isolate him from the rest of his family.
And that's unfortunate.
It is. It's sad.
It is. And so the next on the list is probably the most obvious, which is constant conflict. So all of these obviously tie in together. When you are trying to communicate with someone about a problem and they are toxic, then what's going to happen is you guys are just constantly fighting. And one thing that I've learned from my toxic relationships is you're fighting about anything and everything. I once got into a fight over leaving a dish rag in the sink. And it was not just like a, hey, you need to quit doing this. It was a bring the house down, knock them out sort of fight over a dish rag in the sink. Mm-hmm. It was crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've been in a home of those.
This is just, every relationship's going to have conflict. Every single relationship. You cannot have let me tell you, if you have a relationship with no conflict, like, please call me and tell me because I want to meet you because you're a freaking unicorn. But what it comes down to is your willingness to be humble, to admit your part in whatever is going on, and to openly communicate, to honestly try and resolve it. This is, in these toxic relationships, you're literally fighting and going round and round. There's no resolution. I think that's really what I'm trying to say. Right. There's zero resolution.
And they usually escalate very quickly and they turn into either emotional abuse, verbal abuse, or physical abuse. So if you are in a relationship where the person on the other side of your relationship is calling you fat, calling you ugly, saying you're stupid, hitting you, pushing you, saying, well, if you leave me, I'm gonna get the kids. I'm gonna share this with your family, your social media.
That's black.
That's a problem. But there are tons and tons of people in these relationships. And what I don't like, what I thought of when you were telling that story, I hate how the media, and I don't like I do go off on the media a lot. But here's the thing. Movies like The Notebook, they try to normalize these toxic relationships where we scream and yell at each other and all freaking crazy, but it's because we love each other so much. That's garbage. You don't love each other more if you are screaming and yelling and leaving each other and being mentally, physically, or emotionally abusive. And again, one is not worse than the other or better than the other. Just because your ex beat you and now your current husband just calls you fat and says that you're lazy, that is not better. Those are both toxic relationships that you need to remove yourself from.
Yeah. And
not good.
And it goes, it's not just like those romantic. I've had plenty of friends where, like you said, it's, and here's one thing I'm trying to teach my daughter. She comes home from school. How was your day? Oh, so-and-so wasn't my friend today because this other person wanted to play with her. And I'm trying to get her to understand that if you have a good friend and they are a good, solid, healthy friend, they're going to be your friend all the time. They're not going to tell you, I'm not friends with you because so-and-so is at school today or because so-and-so wants to play with me. And they might not always invite you to come play with them, but they're going to say, obviously, and these kids are 9, so we have like no emotional maturity here. But as a grown-up, they're going to say, hey, I'm hanging out with this person. And one thing that I've had to do is I've been it was me and my 2 girlfriends. We were thick as thieves. We were super tight, like all the time. And then, things happen, whatever. We start, getting married and doing the things. And these 2 get into a fight and they literally never speak anymore. Not ever. Not ever. And it's hard for me being in the middle because they, I'm like, what do I do? Like, who's getting invited to my wedding? Who's coming to my baby shower? And it's not just romantic relationships. Like, friends can be assholes too.
Oh, absolutely. And I will tell you, like, friends and family, because you mentioned baby shower and it reminded me of my baby shower and the toxic family member that made my family member not be a part of my life anymore was like, if you invite these people to your baby shower, I'm not coming. I'm like, I don't care. I am inviting everybody to my baby shower, and whoever shows up because this is about me and supporting me. It's not about whatever problems you have in life with other people.
Right.
Not my problem. That's a you problem, not a me problem. 110%. And there was something else I was going to touch on, but I forgot. I'm sure it'll come back to me. All right, moving on. Unequal power dynamics. So a big red flag is, a lot of relationships can have imbalances in power and control. And I think that there can be actual imbalances in power and control, but sometimes it's just a perceived imbalance. Like, if the husband makes all the money and pays all the bills, we're not saying that is necessarily an imbalance. It is an imbalance if they're going to their wife and saying, you can't buy anything unless I approve it, period. And I'm only going to approve it if you've done X, Y, Z. That is an imbalance of power and control because they are exerting this over you and saying, I hold this power, I hold this control, and I'm only going to allow you to do something in this scenario.
Mm-hmm. And we've already gone over a lot of this stuff. I mean, emotional, physical abuse, these relationships are also like draining. Like you talked about before, like you go to someone's house and you leave and you feel awful because you just spent the last hour and a half listening to them with all this negativity. And I don't care what anybody says, stress and negativity will physically manifest. It will physically manifest. So you shouldn't leave a meeting with someone feeling exhausted unless it was good exhaustion.
But that just reminded me of what I was going to say, actually, when you said the emotional or physical abuse and you were talking about your daughter, right? One other thing I want to add to this is if you have children, understand that everything that your children see you allow in your life, when they grow up, they're going to allow it in their life.
I know.
Period. Bottom line, end of story. So if you are a parent and you think that you're staying in this house for the kids and that house is not good, you are lying to yourself and you are doing a disservice to your kids. Because as a child who grew up in a chaotic environment, I didn't know that there was an alternative to that. So like when me and Dave got together
and everything was copacetic, you were just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I would start screaming about something and being all crazy. And he literally looked at me like, this is like in the first, months of our relationship. And he's like, I'm not gonna do this with you. And I'm like, what do you mean? This is how it works. I get mad and I yell and scream and we argue and fight and dishes are thrown and everybody hates each other and then we love each other again tomorrow. And he's like, yeah, no, I'm just
pass on that.
Not gonna do it. And now today, we've been married 11 years this year, together like 13 or 14, I don't know, some years other than that. And when you said nobody argues, like I often say that, like we don't argue. Like, do we disagree on things? Yes. Do we have, conflicting conversations? Sometimes, yes. But it would be maybe a once a year thing if like I'm yelling about something and it's probably again a me problem because I have an 8 or I'm stressed out or like a combination of all of the things. But it is, I can remember maybe a handful of times in all of those years where we're both actually like screaming at each other. Like that's just it's not a thing. But I didn't know that for all these relationships before it. Like how many relationships did I blow up just because I didn't know
any better?
There was an alternative. So I want people to really, really hear that. What you allow and what you negotiate, your children are learning from, whether it's your significant other. Like you said, this could be anybody. How you allow your friends to treat you, how you allow your parents to treat you, how you allow your grandparents to treat you.
And how you treat other people.
Yeah, dads, how you treat your daughters. That's how they're going to allow their spouses to treat them. So if you scream at your daughter and you tell her she's a pile of crap and you don't take care of her, when she goes to get married, she's going to think this is how men treat me and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So think about that, guys. Really let that resonate with you because it's a thing.
All right. So here's a good place to pause. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, but you're going to want to sit tight because when we come back, we're going to break down how you can break these barriers and deal with these toxic people.
Do you know more than 80% of real estate agents fail and quit in their first year of business? MyStarsAcademy.com has set out to solve this problem by providing a convenient, expert-based training and coaching program for both agents and brokers. The Agent Accelerator program teaches agents everything they need to know to level up their business, have a constant flow of free leads, convert those leads into clients, and take those clients to the closing table and keep them coming back for more as repeat business. Our industry experts have years of proven success in the business and are here to share that gold through one-on-one coaching. This will help you achieve more structure and work-life balance. We will map you a plan you can follow, which will guide you through the steps to scale and grow in both your business and personal life. Don't be a statistic. Visit MyStarsAcademy.com and enroll today so you can get the success you deserve.
All right, y'all, welcome back. Thank you so much for sitting tight. If you missed part 1 of this part 1, you're going to want to go back and listen where we break down all of the red flags that you're going to see in a toxic relationship, whether it's your lover, your husband, your wife, your friend, your family member. And this is super important because like we said before, sometimes you just can't see the forest for the trees. Or maybe like Trisha said, you've got a gut feeling, but you're not sure. Go back, listen to all those red flags, but right now sit tight and take some notes because we are going to break down some ways that you can handle these situations and either resolve it and repair the relationship or cut them loose. Cut them loose.
Yeah. Again, sometimes it's just you don't want to see this. You don't want to admit to yourself and to others that like I have to take these steps forward. And sometimes it takes a long time, but even if it takes a long time, you have to start taking these steps. So we're going to give you some steps. And the first one I want you to do, and what's most important, and you can literally, as soon as you stop listening to this podcast, grab a pen and a piece of paper and do some self-assessment. I want you to reflect on how the relationship is affecting your mental health, your emotional health,
your physical health.
Is this person in a healthy relationship, people support each other. They encourage each other. Is this person and it's supporting and encouraging your personal growth, your development, your goals, your passions, your interests? They don't have to have the same goals, passions, and interests, or want even the same things for their life that you want for yours, right? Like, I run marathons. Dave doesn't ever want to run a marathon. He grabs a bike and rides a bike and meets me with snacks, like, is this person, and they don't have to be that extreme, but how are they affecting it positively? Are they completely neutral?
Are they
or is
cheering
it
you
negative?
on? Like when you share your wins, are they salty about it? Are they having some feelings about it? Or are they saying, man, I love that for you? Like when Ryan and I come together at the end of the day, like I said, his business is taking off. My business is taking off. So at the end of the day, I'm like, how was your day? He's like, oh, we crushed it. We did a lot of hard work today. We cleared out this house. We did this for this client. How was your day? Awesome. And we support each other and make sure that no matter what happens at the end of the day, everybody's taken care of. Everybody feels good about what they got done. And sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't get done as much as I got done, but or as much as I wanted to, but this happened. I had to take care of it. Like today, the baby woke up and threw up. So we're recording. And so he's like, all right, well, I'll hold the bag while you're doing that. And then you hold the bag. Like it's a supportive, cohesive, not always not always.
It's not perfect.
It's not perfect, but it is healthy and positive and moving forward.
Yeah. And a very easy litmus test is think about the last 10 interactions you had with that person. Out of 10 interactions, how many did you leave feeling great? And how many did you leave feeling not good?
Yeah. And why did you feel not good? Did you feel
Write that down.
Yeah. Did you feel not good because you didn't like the way that they handled it? Was it a you thing? Are you cycling hormonally? Like really dig in and don't be afraid to say, yeah, this is a me problem. This is something that I need to fix inside of me rather than projecting it on someone else. Or is it crap, they're terrible for me?
Yeah. If every time you walk into this person's house or get around this person, they're salty about your success, they make you feel bad about winning, they, oh, must be nice. Oh, you think you're bad. Like that's a problem. That's a problem. That's somebody you need to get away from. If they are not encouraging you and being a cheerleader for you, you don't have time for that. And in the exact opposite, if they're hurting you, like that's it. That's a zero tolerance policy, guys. Zero.
And that brings us to our next one, which is setting boundaries. This is so hard for me. This is so hard for me. I'm terrible at setting boundaries. I'm horrible at this. And it's important and it doesn't have to be like these big things. It could you could look at the person like Trisha said, and I don't participate in this kind of conversation. I just don't. Or like Ryan and I with our family, we just don't invite them over. We just don't hang out with them. And setting boundaries is super important, but you have to communicate that to the other person. So if you're in a friendship and that person is coming to you and they're constantly gossiping and you look at them and you say, listen, I'm sorry you're feeling this way. I'm not going to sit and talk about, Sharonda anymore.
Yeah. And you can even tell them hey, if I always interact with Kylie and she's always negative with me, I could go, listen, Dave, next time I interact with Kylie, I'm going to tell her that me and you are on a gossip-free fest. So I'm going to go and tell her that from now on, every time she comes around me, I need her to not gossip. You can even make it a you thing, right? For me, I'm on this pact with Dave that I no longer gossip. So I need you to not gossip around me anymore. If you want to do that with other people, that's cool. But like you said, you have to communicate your boundaries and your expectations. You can't just assume, when we moved closer to all of our family, right? I can't just assume that they know that don't drop by my house unexpected or unannounced. I can't assume that they know that because especially an older generation, they were brought up that when you want to go visit your aunt, you just go to your aunt's house, knock on the door and come on in. Or when you want to visit your daughter, you just go to her house, knock on the door and come on in. That is not an out of the ordinary expectation, especially for the older generation, to just come on over and come on in when they want to visit or help or drop something off or support you. It is up to you to say, hey, listen, I love you. I want you to visit all the time, but I need you to give me a heads up just so I am ready and I am home. And I save you the drive if I'm not there. I'm sometimes not there, or I need to be mentally ready, or you know that I juggle a lot of balls, or I want to make sure that I'm awake or alive, or whatever
it is. Whatever it is. Just communicate that for sure. I like the next one, which is seek support. That's definitely important, especially if you are in a relationship that is abusive. There's plenty of community. There's community support. There's numbers you can call. There's places you can go. There's people you can talk to. But even if it's not that severe, if it's not on that level, maybe you just need to have a friend to talk to, or maybe a counselor, to ask questions like, how do I navigate this? What kind of a conversation? Because I'm the type of person where I'll have the conversation in my head 45 times before I actually talk to the person. And I'm expecting it to go completely balls to the wall, like explosion. And most often it doesn't. But seek support, seek an ear, seek a shoulder, seek some kind of guidance or shelter or safety. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, a great example of this is, and I use this example on my coaching call, when I cut out a very close family member. It was really, 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 really hard. And he used to call me and leave these voicemail messages that were just so angry and awful, and like calling me names, and I'm the most terrible person, and I think I'm better than everybody, and I'm awful and I'm terrible, because he drank. So he would get super wasted and leave this like plethora of voicemails. However, he was still my family member, and I wanted to make sure that he was safe and that my other family member that was in the house was safe. So I asked Dave, like, during this period where I am shutting down all this communication, I mentally and emotionally can no longer do this, will you listen to these voicemails? So every time I would wake up in the morning and there'd be 10 voicemails on my voicemail, I would give my phone to Dave. He would listen to all the messages. He'd be like, you're good. Listen to the messages, you're good. Listen to the messages, you're good. Because what I didn't want to happen is something bad actually happened, and then I felt bad because I cut that person out of my life. But at the same point, I couldn't keep listening to those messages.
Yeah.
It hurt me so bad. And I understood, like, alcoholism is a disease and people don't have control over that. And that took me a long time to understand. And I think that when you can understand that, and you can call a partner or a friend or whoever to say, hey, I need you to listen to these messages and just let me know everything's okay. Or I need you to check these emails because they always email me. Or I need you to check my Facebook messages, or whatever it is. So you know that they're okay and you can still keep your boundaries set and your mental and emotional space safe.
Yeah, we have those in place too. It's important to have someone who can, especially if you are cutting off someone who's super toxic, you got to have that support system in place. So the next one is kind of interesting, which is gradual distancing.
Yeah, so I utilize this with that person. So like just because it's hard to just straight cut someone off, right? Like one day you're interacting with them every single day and you're listening to those voicemails and you're responding and getting angry, and this is happening all day, every day, and then you just shut it down. That may be hard for someone to just totally shut it down, and they might not have anybody else. There's lots of people in this world who have nobody else to help them through this.
Yeah.
So if you are just a person who doesn't have friends and family, and you're just working with a therapist who's helping you with this, you can gradually reduce contact. And what that looked like for me is, okay, at first, I don't answer my phone past 10 p.m. Don't answer my phone past 8 p.m. Don't answer my phone past 6 p.m. Okay, I don't answer my phone for this person at all. Okay, not only do I not answer, but I'm not listening to these voicemails anymore. Okay, I'm not answering, I'm not listening. And I actually proactively wrote an email to this person and said, here is what is going on. You make me feel like this. What you are doing is affecting me in this way, and here is what I am going to do. If you want to mend this relationship, I am here for it. However, my terms of re-engaging with you are going to be X, Y, and Z.
And they are non-negotiable.
Should you decide to undertake those terms, please email me and reach out and let me know what's going on. And then from there on out, like, you can see the ball is in their court. Because what I want you to remember is, especially when it's an abusive relationship, mentally, emotionally, physically, this is not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. And when you cut that communication, again, there is nothing wrong with you. You are not doing something wrong. So you put that ball in their court. It's their job to fix their problems. It is not your job to fix their anger, their addiction, whatever the case, their childhood trauma, their mommy and daddy issues, whatever it is. That is not your job to fix another broken person. And this is hard for me because I always say, like, I have the savior mentality. I want to save everybody. And the only person that gets hurt in the end is me. It's me who gets hurt. And when I suffer, my kids suffer, my family suffers, my dog suffers, like everybody around me suffers because I'm trying to fix this person who's not fixing themselves. You can't fix another human. All you can do is focus on yourself and your well-being. And when they are ready, no sooner than when they are ready, they will seek and get the help that they need.
Absolutely. Okay. So last couple ones. Seek closure. We kind of already talked about that. Make sure that you're communicating your expectations, your boundaries, your feelings, your perspective. Because like Trisha said, maybe your perspective is maybe that person didn't realize or whatever, you know, and you say, hey, this is a big deal to me when you come to me and you gossip or you're constantly, you know, negative. They might not think it's a big deal because like Trisha said, maybe that's the only way they know how to communicate, especially if they're in a relationship where it's just like an echo chamber, right? I really love the last one that you put on the list. Make plans around the holidays. So this is when things get tough, especially if you have 4,962 family members like we do, where you got to be over here at noon and then you got to go over here at 3 and then you got to go over here at 6. Like it can be really tough. And then that can also create a lot of problems too, because if you say, okay, well, this year we're only going to one person's house. Well, now everybody else is butthurt and blah, 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 blah. So making plans around the holidays to make sure that your family's not stressed out, you are not spending time with toxic people. It is okay to say, you know what, Aunt so-and-so, I understand that you're hosting the family party. You know, I understand these family members are going to be there. I want you to know that like, just for me and my family, we'll come celebrate with you on another day, but we're not trying to be around those people because they do this and I'm not down with that, you know, and that's not talking crap about someone. That is just literally explaining to someone else what's going on. And that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I want everybody to remember, you are not a taco. You cannot make everybody happy, nor is it your job. It is not your job to make others happy. So like, I will tell you here, me, okay? I don't care how other people feel about this. On the week of Thanksgiving, including Thanksgiving holiday, me and Dave are going on a cruise. Just me and him are going on a cruise. Never been on a cruise. I don't really care about Thanksgiving dinner. Trent's in Red Lake. Angelina gets to go hang out with her grandma and that family. And I am unapologetically leaving and going on a freaking cruise.
Bye.
Don't care. Sorry. If you don't like that, that's on you. I am 42 years old. You had 41 other Thanksgivings that you could have asked me to interact with you and we had dinner together and blah, 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 blah. If you are butthurt about it, that's your problem. If you are mad about it, that's your problem. If you want to talk badly about me, still your problem. You should probably think about other things that are important in your life than what I'm doing on my Thanksgiving.
Absolutely. Ryan and I talked one year about having Christmas up at the cabin. Yeah. And I would love to do that. And my dad and my mom, because we are I'm still literally attached to my mother by the cord. Mm-hmm. You know, Ryan's parents too, you know, they're literally in the same neighborhood. And I remember my mom going, yeah, that's not happening. And my dad goes, wait a minute, Gwen. He goes, Ryan and Kylie can have Christmas at the cabin if they want to, but the kids are staying with us.
Well, and here's one thing, like, that's cute and that's funny and I love it. I love that for them and you. But I want everybody to remember that your holiday is your holiday and you get to do your holiday however you want. And I'm glad you mentioned Christmas because for me, when me and Dave first got together, I had so much trauma around holidays. Like Christmas for me, I had grown into a person that hated Christmas. And I hated it.
Birthday. It's
I know.
So good.
But that wasn't the focus in our household. It was stressful. It was chaotic. It was
Financially
look at all
tight.
the money that we spent on you that we didn't have. So you felt bad about the presents you got. Everybody drank and got angry. Everybody always ended up in a fight. It was always stressful. Like you said, it was always going to 16 houses. And even when we had kids, it was stressful. It was going to this house and this house and this house and this house and this house. Our kids couldn't even open their presents and enjoy Christmas morning. And finally one year I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. And Dave's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. By the time we leave everybody's house on Christmas Eve, our kids are exhausted. The next morning they are angry. They don't get to open their presents because we have to go to somebody else's house. By the time they open their presents, they are so exhausted and so whiny. They can't even enjoy them. None of us actually enjoyed this holiday. So now Christmas, I say, on Christmas Eve, we will be home by 10 p.m. We will put on our Christmas jammies, and on Christmas morning, we'll wake up and our kids will open their presents. And if anybody wants to come over, we're probably going to order Chinese food at some point during the day. And that is our Christmas. Everybody's welcome to join. You can come whenever you want. You can dress
Hear that,
however
listeners?
you
Come on
want.
over to Trisha's house. Bring some Chinese food.
Yeah, we're chilling, dude. I don't need to make a giant meal. I don't need everybody to be stressed out. Guess what? We are going to enjoy this holiday in a non-stressful, fun, good way. We're going to go to church. We're going to enjoy Jesus's birthday. We're going to enjoy our time together because that's what matters.
That's what matters. All right. So real quick, we are going to run down some things that you can do as well to make sure that you are keeping yourself together. Trisha, go number 1. Self-care.
Self-care.
Prioritize self-care. Activities that nourish your mind, your body, and your soul. That's different for everybody.
It is. And the healing process is challenging, but there are strategies to be able to recover and rebuild. And self-care is a definite one. No matter what's going on in your life, self-care is important.
Yeah, and so
Prioritize it.
this was another one that I was like, that's a bunch of hooey, like self-care. What is that? Like you take care of yourself all the time, every day. But Andy got me journaling.
Mm-hmm.
So delicious.
Right.
So good. When I'm stressed out or I'm freaking out, a lot of times I use my journal as kind of like a prayer journal. I talk to God in my journal, and it really helps me just kind of like get everything out. Yeah. And it has been so therapeutic. It has strengthened my spirituality. It has helped my prayer life, which makes me a better person for my kids and my family. Self-care is important.
It is.
Every once in a while, soak your feet, girl. Cut your nails, paint your toes.
I got a massage yesterday. I had the worst day ever yesterday, and I had a massage scheduled, which I get them so seldom. The lady's always like, I haven't seen you in forever. Why don't you come? And I'm like, I know I need to because I'm an athlete, so I need massages to keep my body from falling apart. But I needed it that day because I was so stressed out.
We're
it was
done.
So awful.
She was spent.
Yeah, I wanted to burn it all down. And I got to just lay there for 1 hour, and the hour went by so fast, but I got to like really like.
You're like, how much for another hour?
For real. I had to let my mind chill and my body chill. And then I went directly to the gym because I had so much craziness to get out. And the gym is self-care. Massage is self-care. Journaling is self-care. Meditation is self-care. There are a lot of different versions of self-care, but you need to be intentional about it all the time. And let's go to the next one, which is surround yourself with positivity. Cultivate relationships with people who lift you up and support you. Me and Kylie always leave podcast day pumped because we are always so positive with each other all day long. So all we get is positive, happy, smiling, laughing fun.
Yeah.
I love it.
I have a love-hate relationship with podcast day because I have to get up a little extra early to, put all this together. But like, and then I feel bad like on days like today where I'm texting, I'm like, so I said I was going to be here at 8:30. Just kidding. It's 9. The baby threw up everywhere. And Trisha's like, no problem, babe. Like you never harass me. Like you, and it's, if you don't have someone positive in your life, like please listen to a sermon on YouTube or something.
Get some positivity in your
Also get professional help. When I was coming out of a really scary relationship, I had never gone to a counselor. I never talked to a therapist. And someone very important in my life made it a non-negotiable. They were like, you are either going to go and talk to this person and get some help with coping. I needed coping strategies because no one in my immediate situation had ever dealt with what I had just come out of. And so they didn't know how to help me heal those scars or start dealing with and facing the things that I was dealing with. And so I went to a counselor for about 6 or 7 months, give or take. It started out as like every other week, and then we went to once a month, and she really helped me get perspective, because when you're coming out of something, everything is so big and so dramatic and so intense and so severe that sometimes you need that like uninterested third party to tell you, okay, well, when this happens, like, here's what's actually happening. And they give you that perspective shift. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. And just for those of you who are like, oh, therapy, I don't have insurance, I don't have this, I don't want to go, I don't want to talk to somebody. There is, you can Google BetterHelp. I think it's called BetterHelp. Might be Better Health. But anyways, it's online therapy. And you can just write back and forth with a licensed therapist, or you can Zoom with a licensed therapist, and it's somebody to help you where you don't need insurance. It's super, super affordable. You can do it in your car. You can do it from home, camera on, camera off, or just via messaging. So it doesn't have to be like this scary
lay on a couch,
blah, blah, blah. But you do need someone to, like Kylie said, somebody who has no skin in the game that can give you some resources to help. And the next one is set new goals. Set some new goals. If you've never set goals before, start super simple. Focus on your personal growth, setting new positive goals for your new positive future.
Absolutely. And then forgiveness. That is a huge part of healing and coming out of these things, because I mean, Trisha and I have both been in relationships, romantic relationships, family relationships where, we just had to accept and say, you know what? That person decided not to change. I forgive them for everything, whether they forgive you or not for your part in it. But you have to just forgive people and just move on. Now, a lot of people think that, and one thing that I've had thrown in my face when I've cut someone off is, you're a Christian. Is this this is not the Christian way. Ba, 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 ba. It is okay to forgive people. There's a difference between forgiveness and continuing to allow some crap to go on. I have forgiven a good handful of people that I have literally never spoken to again, and I never will speak to again. And I will never see again if I have my way about it. And that's fine. I've never said to them specifically, I forgive you, but I have said, okay, we've forgiven them. It's all done and over with. There's nothing we can do about it now. We've set our piece. We've drawn our boundaries. We've cut them off, and we've taken all the precautions and the steps to make sure that we are in a safe and healthy space. Forgiveness given, all done. Moving on.
Yeah. And a good litmus test for that, because forgiveness is very hard for me with some people. Some people I'm very easy to forgive, but there's been a couple people in my life that when I think about them, I am enraged. If you are enraged, that means you have not forgiven them yet. Yeah. So, and like Kylie said, you can let it go and be like, you know what? That person has to answer to their higher power at the end of the day. I need to stop this anger that is brewing inside of me. And that doesn't mean you have to let them back in your life forever, see them again. Like Kylie said, just if you are instantly enraged, journal about that and see like, what do you still need to process through to be able to move from that step forward to where when you hear that person's name, you're not like, I need to stab or burn something down.
Yeah, absolutely. So to wrap this up, we just wanted to share this with you. I feel like this is a really big topic right now, and it's always, and it's not easy to deal with. And so especially as we're transitioning into the new season, we're coming into the holiday season, you're going to be interacting with people, like Trisha said, that maybe you only see once a year. So we just wanted to let you know that you're not alone. You deserve to be healthy. You deserve to have good, positive, supportive relationships. You deserve that. I'm looking at you. You right here. You deserve, I don't like saying you deserve to be happy, because happiness is circumstantial. You deserve to live a life of joy.
Yeah.
And you deserve to, just be who you are and be loved and enjoy all of that. Because let me tell you, life is too short to stay in a place of sadness, misery, anger, fear, scared.
You are not a tree. If you don't like where you are, then move.
Yes.
That's my favorite quote. So the last thing I want to give you guys for an action step is right now we're wrapping up. We're about to be done. I want you to grab a piece of paper, grab a pen, write a list of people to support you and this decision, steps you can take to make this change, the date you will start, and then start taking action so you can watch your life change in all the right ways.
Absolutely. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope this touched you. If you know someone going through something or dealing with someone, please share the show. Send them the link. Let them know that they are not alone and that you see them and that you support them. Maybe you're the support person that someone else is putting on their list. Do not discount that position, okay? To everybody, thank you for joining us. Hit that share, hit that like, hit that subscribe, and come back next week for part two.
Part two. Bye.
We thank you so much for joining us today on the Elite Live with Trish and Kylie. Be sure to share the episode with a friend so we can continue bringing you more great tips on grit, grace, and real estate. You can also connect with us on Instagram, Facebook. We hope the ideas we share continue to help you build an empire and leave a legacy.